we are now joined by Wits Social Security Systems Administration and Management Studies Chair, Professor Alex van Den Heever. Prof, a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks very much for joining us here on SABC News, sir.
Good evening.
Let's start here. I mean, I have to say that, hearing the assessment of Professor Somadoda Fikeni talking about having to professionalize South Africa's public service seemed quite concerning to me. Are we not a professional service as it is when it comes to public service? And why not? You would have thought that it would have been professionalized a long time ago.
Well, the idea of professionalization implies that it is a profession. In other words, you have specific qualifications to work in the public sector and also to be promoted to senior positions. So that's sort of what professionalization implies in one sense. But in many senses, what people are referring to is that people are qualified to do the job. And there are two features to that. One is the qualification itself, and having a higher level qualification to be in senior positions, as well as the in-depth experience of the organizations within which one is working. And it's that link that has been largely broken in the way in which the public service has been operating, largely through what was referred to earlier as patronage or political interference in the appointment process of people in the senior levels of the public administration and service. And that destruction of the leadership role has had a severe impact on performance. And it's a combination of a problem at the political level and then the quality of people that are operating within the senior levels of government administration.
And really just any organization. I mean, it does seem that people are sort of just parachuted into positions. I mean, you heard there Professor Somadoda talking about the fact that people don't have the requisite skills nor the experience, and that certainly just trickles down everywhere else, doesn't it?
Well, once you put somebody at the top of an organization who's completely detached from it, you unravel that organization's coherence. In many cases, the environments become toxic. And what's happened in large parts of the public service is that multiple layers of management have been inserted, not because they actually have a true function to perform, but because they were a way of promoting people into senior positions and paying them more without necessarily having to do more or adding to the value of that organization. So this is a serious concern. We've increased the cost of the public administration and we've lowered its productivity. And so the source of it isn't just the source of the problem isn't just professionalizing the service. We essentially need to reorganize large parts of the public service to make it functional. And we have to have people at the top end of the service that actually are highly competent and are not there as the playthings of members of the executive of government.
Right. And where do we begin when it comes to professionalizing? I see that government hosted some sort of a retreat on the framework to professionalize public service a couple of months ago, and they came up with some objectives, a roadmap to professionalize a framework that'll form a center stage on where to begin. But where would you say exactly we should start? I mean, we were just watching that clip where, a lot of people standing in queues have the same thing to say, that, there's nothing professional. Everything is just, disaster when it comes to any kind of public service. So where does one even start when the system is malfunctioning to that level?
Yeah, so it's because the causes are there's a sort of multiple layers of causes, not just the professionalization of the public service. Certainly in our school, we deal with a lot of civil servants. We do the higher education postgraduate training of civil servants, and many of them are extremely frustrated by the leadership level of government. They feel very frustrated that they can't do their jobs effectively, and their organizations are very dysfunctional, and they feel in many cases they can't do anything about it. So it is not only the issue of professionalization. We have emerging good professionals in the public service, but they are being destabilized by the way in which leadership leadership is operating at the top levels. Now, that's the top levels of the administration. So one of the key starting points for improving the functionality of the administrations is to sever this link, this employment relationship between a member of the executive and the senior levels of the administration. Internationally, you would refer to somebody as a permanent secretary in our positions of Director General, and in that they are not appointed and sort of retained at by a particular MEC or minister. They can't be just removed willy-nilly. They are there as long-term civil servants, and essentially they implement government's program and policies, but they are not there as somebody who just changes or is parachuted in. So that's a very, very important linkage, is that appointment at the top level of an organization needs to be stable, and it needs to be separated from the MEC and the minister. And if you get that, that's the first layer. Then you start to deal with meritocratic appointments throughout the civil service based on competence, training, experience, and that the order of the day. Not friends appointing themselves, not people who are essentially trying to rig tenders and agreements getting appointments. That is, or the appointment or essentially the layering of the civil service in key positions with syndicates who are there for the purpose of extraction. So those are the things that basically need to be killed, and the first part means that we separate out politicians from the actual administrations of government.
All right, Prof, thank you very much for giving us your time then this evening. Professor Alex van Den Heever.